The night was heavy with rain, and the city lights blurred like faded memories against the wet glass of the car window, as the billionaire named Jack stepped out into the crowded street, drawn by a strange pull in his chest, a pull that he could not name but that urged him to walk away from the safety of his car and into the alley where voices echoed and shadows moved. And there, in the corner near a broken lamppost, he froze because his eyes locked on something that made his heart pound harder than it had in years. And there stood a little girl barefoot, her thin body wrapped in rags, her hair tangled, her face streaked with dirt and tears, and yet none of that was what rooted him to the spot. It was the chain around her neck, glinting in the flickering light, a chain he knew better than his own reflection, a chain that carried the pendant he had once given to the only woman he had ever loved, a necklace that had vanished the night she died and never been seen again until now. And his breath caught as his hand trembled, reaching forward but pulling back, as if the air itself warned him that touching her would unravel something too big to grasp. The girl clutched the necklace as if it were her only shield, her wide eyes darting toward him and then away like a cornered animal. She whispered something too soft for him to hear, but he stepped closer, his voice shaking though it carried the weight of command. "Where did you get that necklace? Tell me right now." But she shook her head, and her lips trembled, and her tiny fingers tightened around the pendant, as though she feared he would rip it away from her and run. Yet Jack could not move, not because he lacked the strength, but because the truth pressed against his chest like a blade. He wanted to believe it was a copy, a trick, an illusion, but no, the cracks on the gold, the faint scratch at the edge of the stone, the curve of the clasp, all of it was exactly as he remembered, and his knees almost gave out, because in that single moment it was as if the past had clawed its way back into the present. Rain dripped from his hair down his face, though he barely noticed. The people passing by seemed blind to the girl, blind to him, blind to the storm of memories surging in his mind, the night of the fire, the screams, the ashes, the necklace gone forever. And yet here it was, hanging from the neck of a child who looked like she had known only hunger and sorrow. Jack's voice dropped softer this time. "Please, tell me who gave it to you, please." But instead of answering, she slowly lifted her hand and pointed behind him toward the darkened street, and Jack turned, and for an instant he saw nothing, but then a figure slipped into the shadows, too quick to make out, and a girl whispered again, this time louder, her voice hoarse. "He told me to keep it safe." The words sliced through him like a hidden blade. "Who told you?" Jack demanded. But before the girl could speak again, a door creaked open from the alley's end, and a man's voice called out harsh and cold, "Girl, get inside now." And Jack turned his body, blocking the girl instinctively, though he did not know why his instincts screamed danger. The man's footsteps grew louder, echoing against the wet pavement, and the girl clutched the necklace tighter, whispering, "Please don't let him take it away. Please don't let him take me away." Jack's chest burned with questions. His mind spun with fear and anger and disbelief. How could this child have the one thing tied to the deepest wound of his life, and why did he feel as though stepping closer to the truth might tear open everything? He thought he knew. The man emerged from the shadows, his eyes narrowing when he saw Jack, his mouth curling into something that was neither a smile nor a sneer, but something darker. His hand twitched as if ready to grab the child, but when his gaze dropped to the necklace, his face shifted, pale, tense, wary. He barked out, "She has nothing that belongs to you. Walk away now, billionaire, or you will regret it." And Jack's jaw tightened, his fists clenching, because he had spent years surrounded by snakes in suits, men who threatened behind polished smiles. But this was different. This was raw. This was dangerous, and the girl was trembling beside him, looking up at him with eyes that begged for protection and trust. And Jack felt something awaken in him, something he thought had died with the woman who once wore that necklace. His voice was calm, though it carried steel. "She has something that was mine long before you ever touched it, and I will not walk away until I know the truth." And the man laughed bitterly, his teeth flashing in the dim light. "Truth is a luxury for men like you," he spat. "Not for her, not for me. Go home to your glass towers and let the dirt rot where it belongs." Jack stepped forward, his tall frame casting a shadow that seemed to press down on the man. But even as the rain hammered harder, even as thunder rolled, Jack knew this was only the beginning. The girl tugged at his sleeve, her whisper barely audible, but heavy enough to freeze his heart again. "She said it belonged to my mother." The words echoed louder than the storm, and Jack's breath faltered, his mind stuttering as he stared at the child, her eyes glistening with tears, her small hand clutching the pendant like it was the last piece of a broken world. Mother, the word rang in his skull. The necklace, the night of fire, the love he lost, and the girl who stood trembling in front of him with his past hanging from her fragile neck, and before he could ask another question, before he could breathe, the man lunged forward and everything shattered into motion as the night split between past and present, truth and lies, protection and betrayal, and there in the rain-soaked alley with the sound of footsteps rushing closer, Jack realized he had stumbled into a mystery that would not only break open his past, but threaten everything he still had left. And the girl's cry pierced the storm as the man shouted again, "Get away from her, she is mine." But Jack already knew one thing: no matter what happened next, he was not walking away. The man lunged with a force that made the girl stumble backward into Jack's leg, and Jack reacted before thought could catch up. His hand shot out, gripping the man's wrist, stopping the grab, though the rain made the skin slick, and the man snarled, his breath hot with rage. The girl whimpered, clutching the necklace tight against her chest, as though it was the only thing tethering her to life, and Jack's eyes blazed with a mixture of grief and fury. He did not fully understand. The man hissed, "You don't know what you're involving yourself in, Billionaire. Stay out of this or you'll regret every breath you've ever taken." And Jack's jaw locked because threats had no effect on him anymore. Not after the years of betrayals, not after the fire, not after losing the woman he once loved. His voice was low, steady, but sharp, like the crack of thunder. "I don't walk away from what belongs to me." And before the man could answer, a group of boys emerged from the alley shadows, their eyes narrow, their hands clenched with rusted pipes and jagged bottles, the kind of makeshift weapons born of desperation. The man barked orders at them: "Take the girl, get rid of him." The boys moved like wolves, circling, and Jack's mind raced, but he did not step back. Instead, he spread his arms slightly, shielding the girl with his body. The rain-slicked pavement reflected the chaos of blurred figures and swinging shadows. The girl clung to his coat, sobbing softly, but Jack felt her tiny hands grip him as though she had already decided. He was the only barrier between her and the abyss. The first boy lunged, pipe raised, but Jack twisted, catching his arm, forcing the weapon to clatter to the ground. A kick to the chest sent the boy sprawling. The others hesitated, surprised that the billionaire whose name filled the business pages moved like a man who had fought in darker places. The man shouted again, furious, but Jack's focus never wavered. Every strike, every parry came not from rage, but from something deeper, an instinct to protect a stranger who somehow carried his past around her neck. The boys faltered one by one, fear in their eyes, though loyalty to the man chained them still, and finally, with a hiss of frustration, the man raised his hand, and the boys retreated into the shadows, their footsteps echoing away until only the three of them remained in the rain-soaked alley. Jack's chest heaved, but his voice was even when he spoke to the man. "You'll tell me where she got that necklace, or you'll never walk these streets again." The man laughed, but the sound was brittle. "Her mother," he spat. "Her mother had it, and gave it to her before she died. So if you want the truth, dig up a grave." The girl flinched and cried, "No, she didn't die. She didn't leave me." And her small, trembling voice carried such raw pain that even the storm seemed to still for a heartbeat. Jack turned his head, lowering himself so he could meet her eyes. His voice gentle, "Tell me, child, where did your mother give you that necklace?" But the man snarled, "Don't listen to her. She knows nothing. She's just a filthy stray." Jack's eyes hardened. The girl's tears fell hot against his hand, and something inside him snapped, not in rage, but in resolve. He stood to his full height, his presence a wall against the man's venomous words. He said, "I'll find the truth, with or without you, but know this: if you ever come near her again, you will regret it." The man's eyes darkened, but for the first time uncertainty flickered there, and without another word, he slipped into the shadows, leaving behind only the echo of his threats. The girl sagged against Jack as though the strength holding her upright had bled away. He steadied her, his hand resting on her thin shoulder, his mind a storm of questions. How did this child hold the last piece of his past? Why did the man care so much? Why did the girl's denial cut through him like fire? He led her out of the alley toward the waiting car, his driver staring in shock but saying nothing as Jack opened the door and guided the girl inside. The city blurred past again, but this time Jack's gaze never left the girl. She stared out the window, clutching the necklace, her lips trembling. She whispered again, "My mother gave it to me before she went away. She promised she'd come back for me. She promised." Jack's heart ached, every word slashing across old scars. His mind replayed the night of the fire, the woman's scream, the necklace gone forever. He had never spoken of it, not once, not to anyone, and now here was a child carrying The same wound, her voice, a mirror of loss. He asked softly what was her name, and the girl's voice cracked as she whispered a name that made Jack's blood run cold, because it was a name he had not heard in years, a name tied to memories he buried. Under money and steel and silence, it was her name, the woman he lost, the love he lost, and for a moment the car spun around him. His hands gripped the seat tight, as if anchoring himself to reality. The girl looked at him confused, afraid. "Did I say something wrong?" Her voice broke, and Jack forced himself to breathe, forced his voice to steady. "No, you didn't do anything wrong." The car pulled up to his estate, a world of glass and marble and iron gates, and the girl's wide eyes filled with fear, as though she had stepped into a place she could never belong. Jack noticed and crouched in front of her, his voice steady. "This is just a house, don't be afraid, no one will hurt you here." But she shook her head, clutching the necklace tighter, muttering, "They always say that before they take everything away." Jack's chest tightened, his eyes burned, because he had once felt the same, betrayed by blood, by trust, by fate. Inside the mansion, the girl flinched at the bright lights, at the polished floors, at the silence broken only by the storm outside. Jack ordered warm food, soft blankets, dry clothes. His staff moved quickly, but with eyes filled with questions he silenced them with a glance. No explanations, only urgency. The girl ate slowly, her hands shaking but her eyes darting, as though expecting the meal to vanish, or the warmth to fade. When she finished, she curled on the couch, holding the necklace and whispering words to faint to catch. Jack stood watching her, his mind racing. The man's threats, the girl's denial, the name she whispered, and the unbearable weight of seeing the necklace again. He knew one thing, this was no coincidence. Fate had forced this encounter, and the truth lay buried somewhere between the girl's trembling whispers and the lies of men who wanted her silenced. He turned to his assistant, his voice cold but sharp. "Find everything about her mother, about the man in the alley. Leave nothing untouched." The girl stirred, half asleep, but her eyes cracked. "Open." Her voice barely a whisper. "Please don't leave me." Jack's chest tightened. He crouched again, meeting her gaze. "I won't leave you, I promise." And her eyes glistened with doubt, because promises had been broken to her before. But in that moment, Jack meant it more than any vow he had ever spoken. The night deepened, the storm raged, but within the mansion, a fragile thread had formed between a broken child and a man who thought his heart had turned to stone. Jack knew danger lingered in the shadows. He knew betrayal would rise again. But as he watched the girl clutch the necklace, he also knew one thing was certain. The past had returned, demanding truth, and he would not rest until he uncovered every buried secret. And yet as dawn edged the horizon with grey light, the girl's whispers returned, haunting the air. She said softly, "My mother said the necklace would lead me back to him." And Jack's heart stopped, because though she did not name him, her words struck like thunder, and he realized the story was only beginning, and the truth might shatter everything he thought. He knew the morning light crept across the wide windows of the mansion, but for Jack the world felt darker than it had in years. He had not slept, he had paced through the night, his mind tangled with questions. The necklace, the girl, the name she whispered, the shadowed man who tried to take her. Every memory clawed at him, the fire, the screams, the woman he loved, the betrayal that followed. And now herein his home was a child who should not exist, holding a piece of his heart in her fragile hands. The girl stirred awake, her hair tangled, her face pale, but her eyes opened with a quiet resilience. She sat up, clutching the necklace tighter than ever, her gaze darting around as though she expected the walls to collapse. Jack approached gently, his voice softer than he thought. "It could be. You are safe here. No one will hurt you." The girl hesitated, then whispered, "You don't understand. They always say that before the pain comes, before they take everything." And Jack's throat tightened, because he remembered how it felt to believe safety was just an illusion. He asked her again, "Child, what was your mother's name?" And this time she spoke it clearly. The name of the woman who had once been Jack's world, the woman who vanished in fire and smoke and lies. Jack staggered back the room, spinning his mind, screaming it cannot be true. But the girl's eyes held the same glimmer, the same fire, the same sadness he had once known in her mother. And suddenly the possibility slammed into him. This child might be connected by blood, by love, by fate. He called his investigator, demanding answers. Within hours, a thick file was placed in his hands. Names, addresses, records blurred with lies and half-truths. The girl had been seen wandering the poorer districts for years, begging, stealing, surviving. She had been taken in by different guardians, some cruel, some indifferent, none who cared. She had spoken of a mother, but no one believed her. They called her delusional, mad, broken. Jack read each page, his hands shaking because the more he read, the more threads pulled back to his own life, back to the night he lost everything. The girl watched him, her eyes following every twitch of his jaw, every breath. She whispered, "Do you believe me now?" And Jack looked at her, and for the first time in years he said, "Yes, I believe you." But belief was not enough. The man from the alley haunted his thoughts. Who was he? Why did he want the girl? What did he know that evening? Jack returned to the city with the girl at his side. Against his staff's protests, he walked into the district, where the alley lay, searching for the man. Shadows lingered, whispers followed. Some locals glanced with fear, some with pity, but all stepped aside when they saw Jack's determined stride. Finally, in a crumbling tavern, he found him sitting at a corner table, a bottle in his hand. Eyes bloodshot, yet sharp, the man smirked when he saw them. "I warned you, billionaire. Walk away, or be buried." Jack slammed the file onto the table, his voice low but carrying fire. "You will tell me the truth, or I will drag it out of you, piece by piece." The man laughed, but his laughter cracked into something brittle. "Truth is dangerous. Truth burns more than fire," he muttered. But his eyes flicked toward the girl, and for the first time, Jack saw fear there. The girl spoke, her voice trembling, but steady. "You knew my mother, didn't you? You knew her." The man froze, then looked away, his knuckles white around the bottle. Finally, he whispered, "She trusted the wrong people. She believed in promises that were never meant to be kept." Jack's heart pounded. Who betrayed her? Who set the fire? The man's eyes lifted, sharp as knives. "Ask your own family. Ask the ones who smiled at you while they tore her world apart." The words struck Jack like lightning. Betrayal from within his chest tightened. Rage burned, but confusion roared louder. "Family." The man stood, slipping into the shadows again, leaving only echoes behind. Jack clenched his fists, his world unraveling piece by piece. The girl clutched his hand, whispering, "Please don't leave me. Please don't believe his lies." But Jack's mind was fire, because somewhere deep down he knew the man was not lying. Back at the mansion, Jack locked himself in his study, pulling out old photographs, old letters, memories long buried. He stared at them through the night, until his eyes blurred. In the morning, his assistant entered, pale with news. "Your brother came to see you, sir. He says it is urgent." Jack felt the ground tilt beneath him, because his brother was the one person he had trusted most after the fire, the one who told him to move on, to forget, to bury the past. The girl stood at the doorway, her necklace catching the morning light, her eyes wide with fear. Jack's brother entered, tall, confident, his smile polished, but Jack saw something different. Now a shadow behind the charm. The girl whispered, her voice breaking, "That's him. He was there the night my mother left me." And Jack's blood turned cold. His brother's eyes flickered, but he laughed, brushing it off. "A child's imagination," he said. But Jack's heart already knew the truth, and though his hands trembled, he spoke words that carved the air like blades. "Tell me the truth, or I will tear apart every lie you have built." And his brother's smile faltered. The room was heavy. The girl's sobs broke the silence, and Jack realized part of the betrayal he had buried for years was about to surface, and the truth waiting beneath it would break his world apart forever. The silence stretched like a blade drawn across the room. Jack's brother stood by the window, his polished smile fading, his hands tightening behind his back. The girl clutched the necklace with white knuckles, whispering again, "That is him. That is the man who was there." Jack's pulse roared in his ears. Years of buried grief breaking open with every beat. He had trusted his brother after the fire, leaned on him, believed his words when he told Jack it was an accident, believed him when he said the necklace was gone forever. But now the pieces twisted together, forming a truth he never wanted to face. Voice cut through the air, low and dangerous. "Tell me what you did." His brother turned slowly, eyes dark with something Jack had never seen before. Not guilt, not fear, but calculation. He said, "You were blinded by love. You could not see how she was changing you. She was tearing you away from the family, from everything we built. She was going to destroy us, so I did what I had to do." Jack staggered as if struck. Every word was poison. His brother continued, "She planned to leave with secrets she should never have known. She carried truths that would have ruined us all. The fire was not meant to kill her. It was meant to silence her." The girl sobbed, shaking her head. "No, she was not a traitor. She loved me. She loved him." And Jack looked at her, the truth stabbing deeper with every breath. His brother's voice dropped lower and colder. "The necklace was proof of what she took. Proof that would destroy everything I worked for. I had to make sure it was gone, but somehow it survived, just like she did, long enough to leave behind this child." Jack's knees nearly buckled his chest. A storm of rage, grief, and disbelief. He whispered, "You took her from me, you destroyed her life, and you expect me to believe it was for family." His brother's eyes narrowed, his voice sharpened. "Family is survival, nothing else. You were too weak, too blind to do what was necessary, so I carried the burden. You should thank me." Jack's hand slammed against the desk, the sound cracking like thunder. "I will never thank you for murder." His brother stepped closer, his tone deadly calm. "Then you will fall with me, because if you reveal this truth, everything you have built will burn. Your empire, your name, your legacy, all tied to me, all tied to her." The girl stepped forward, tears streaming, her voice trembling but fierce. "You cannot scare him anymore. You cannot take from us anymore." Jack looked at her, her small frame trembling, but her eyes burning with the same fire as her mother, and something inside him shifted. He was no longer the man crushed by loss, no longer the brother who trusted blindly. He was a man with truth in his hands, and a child who deserved more than lies. He said to his brother, "Your power is built on ash and blood, and I will see it turn to dust." His brother's mask cracked, fury flashing across his face. "You would destroy everything for a child who is not even yours." Jack's voice cut like steel. "She is mine now, whether by blood or by choice. She is mine, and I will not abandon her." "Therum," erupted his brother, lunged across the desk, shoving Jack hard, his hand reaching for the necklace around the girl's neck, but Jack caught him, slamming him back against the wall, rage pouring through him, years of betrayal igniting into fire. His brother spat, "You will regret this. Every man who stands against me regrets it." Jack's voice was low. "You should regret the day you betrayed her, because now you have lost everything." The struggle spilled through the study, crashing into shelves and scattering papers. The girl screamed, clutching the necklace, as the storm outside beat against the glass. The two brothers fought not just with fists, but with years of buried anger. Jack's strength came not from hate, but from the memory of the woman he lost, and the child who now clung to life because of him. With a final surge, he forced his brother down, pinning him to the floor, his breath ragged, his voice shaking, but steady. "Confess. Tell her what you did." His brother glared, hatred burning, but the weight of Jack's grip, the truth pressing down, broke through. He spat the words, "Fine. I burned it all. I made sure she never came back. I made sure you would never see her again, and I would do it again, because weakness cannot survive." Jack's heart shattered, the words ringing like knives in the air. The girl collapsed, sobbing, but her sobs carried strength too, because the truth was no longer hidden. The chains had broken. Jack released his brother, standing tall over him, his voice final, "You will never harm her again. You will never harm anyone again." His brother sneered, "Even if you ruin me, you cannot bring her back." And Jack's eyes darkened. "Maybe not, but I can protect what she left behind." Guards stormed the room, alerted by the chaos. Jack's orders were sharp: take him away, strip him of everything, expose his crimes. Every secret, every betrayal, let the world see him for what he is. His brother's shouts echoed down the hall. Threats, curses, promises of revenge, but Jack did not flinch. His eyes were fixed on the girl who clung to the necklace, her face streaked with tears, but her shoulders slowly stinging. He knelt before her, his hand gentle on her trembling fingers. "I promised you I would not leave you, and I will keep that promise." She looked at him, eyes wide, uncertain but hopeful. "You believe me, you believe her." And Jack's voice cracked but carried strength. "I believe everything now, and I will fight for you, as I should have fought for her." That night, the mansion felt different, no longer a cage of silence, but a place where truth had been spoken, though pain still lingered. Jack sat with the girl beside the fire, her small hand gripping his, as if letting go meant losing him too. She whispered softly, "My mother said the necklace would lead me back to him," and Jack's chest burned with sorrow and hope. He whispered back, "It did, but..." Outside, the storm had not ended. The family name was in ruins. The empire trembled, and whispers spread through the city, betrayal exposed, secrets rising from the ashes. Jack knew the war was only beginning, but he also knew he would not fight alone, not anymore, because the girl was not just a remnant of the past. She was the future, and he would protect her with everything he had. As the fire crackled, shadows dancing across the walls, Jack realized something profound. Sometimes survival is not about holding on to power, sometimes it is about holding on to love. The mansion was heavy with silence, though outside the city churned with whispers. The news of Jack's brother's arrest spread quickly, scandal ripping through every paper, every channel, every boardroom. Jack's empire trembled, but he did not care. His focus was on the girl who now slept in the room once belonging to the woman he lost, the necklace glinting faintly against her chest as though it were a beacon guiding him back to what truly mattered. When dawn broke, Jack walked through the corridors, his mind filled with both rage and sorrow. The betrayal of his own blood cut deeper than any wound he had ever known. Yet in the center of the pain there was also clarity. He could not undo the fire. He could not bring her back, but he could protect what she left behind. He could give the girl a life beyond hunger, beyond fear, beyond betrayal. The day stretched, long meetings with lawyers, press hounding at the gates, shareholders demanding answers, but Jack kept them all at bay until the evening, when he sat again with the girl she had woken quietly, her eyes still holding shadows of fear. But when she looked at him, there was a flicker of trust. She whispered, "Will they come back for me? Will they take me away?" Jack's heart ached as he shook his head. "Not while I am alive. No one will ever take you away again." But the war was not finished. Jack's brother, though disgraced, still had loyal men who lurked in the dark corners of the city, men who thrived on chaos and power, and one of them struck that very night, breaking through the gates with fire and violence, determined to erase the last piece of truth Jack had uncovered. Alarms blared, the mansion filled with shouts. Jack rushed to the girl's side, grabbing her hand as flames licked the outer walls. Echoes of the night of the first fire clawed into his chest, memories of smoke screams lost. Intruders shouted, demanding the necklace, demanding the child. Jack's rage ignited. He would not let history repeat itself. He led her through hidden passages known only to him, passages built after that first tragedy. He whispered, "Stay behind me no matter what," and her small voice answered, trembling but fierce, "I will not let them take this from us." The fire in her words gave him strength. They reached the inner courtyard only to be confronted by masked men, weapons glinting in the light. Jack stepped forward, shielding her, his voice cold, "Leave now, or face me." The men laughed but faltered when they saw the fire in his eyes. The fight erupted, steel against fists, rage against fists, rage against greed. Jack moved with a fury that shocked even him, each strike, each blow, not just for survival but for the woman he lost and the child. He swore to protect the girl, pressed against the wall, her hands clutching the necklace, her eyes wide, tears streaking down. But within her something awakened. She picked up a fallen branch, swinging with all her might against one of the men who tried to reach her. Jack saw it, and pride burned through the fear. The intruders fell one by one until the courtyard was littered with groans and shattered weapons. The last man fled into the night, his threats echoing, "You cannot protect her forever." Jack pulled the girl into his arms, her small body trembling but alive, his voice firm, "They will never touch you again, not while I breathe." When the fire was finally doused and the mansion secured, Jack sat with the girl beneath the broken sky, stars faint through the smoke. She whispered softly, "They wanted the necklace. Why is it so important?" Jack looked at the pendant, his chest tight, because it was more than gold, more than a jewel. It was proof of everything, hidden proof of betrayal, proof of truth. He said quietly, "It is the last piece of your mother's love, and the last piece of a lie that destroyed us both." Over the next days, Jack dug deeper, uncovering records, letters, transactions, hidden accounts, all tied to his brother and his circle, men who had built empires on deceit, men who feared the truth. The necklace had once held a secret compartment with a letter Jack had given to her, a letter declaring truths about the empire, truths that would shatter everything his brother had built. The letter was gone, but the chain remained, a symbol powerful enough to drive men to mad. Girl listened to every word, her eyes wide, her heart heavy, and she said softly, "My mother wanted me to find you. She wanted me to show you that she never betrayed you." Jack's eyes burned with unshed tears. He pulled her close, his voice rough, "I know that now. I should have known it then, but I will never doubt it again." But the storm was not over. Whispers came of trials, corruption spreading beyond his brother, of enemies who wanted to silence Jack forever. The girl became a target, not just because of the necklace but because of what she represented: hope, truth, survival. Jack knew he could not hide her away. He had to face the storm head on. He had to stand before the world and reveal what had been buried. The night before the hearing, Jack sat with her in the quiet library, the fire low, the necklace glinting. She looked at him and asked, "Will they believe us?" And he answered, "They may not, but I will make them see the truth. I will not let them bury you or your mother again." Her small hand slipped into his, her eyes shining with tears. "You are all I have." And Jack whispered back, "You are all I have too." And in that moment, the bond was sealed, not of blood perhaps, but of something stronger, of love, forged in fire and pain. The next morning, Jack walked into the courthouse, the girl at his side, cameras flashing, voices shouting, but he kept his head High, his hand steady on her shoulder, inside the walls buzzed with power men in suits. Glaring judges waiting. Silence fell when Jack spoke. His voice steady. I was blind once. I let lies destroy everything. I loved, but not again. This child is living proof of betrayal and of survival, and I will not allow her voice to be silenced. Filled the hall, his brother sneered from his cage of chains, shouting lies, calling the girl a fraud, but Jack's words drowned him. The necklace raised high, a symbol of both past and present. The girl's trembling voice joined his, telling the court of her mother, her promises, her pain, her survival, and for the first time the room felt the weight of truth. As the session ended, the judge's gavel fell, and though the war was not finished, though enemies still lurked, the first blow had been struck. The lies were cracking, the truth bleeding through. Jack left the courthouse with the girl, her small hand in his, the crowd erupting with questions, but for the first time in years, his heart felt lighter. He looked down at her, whispering, "This is only the beginning," and she whispered back, "Then we will finish it together." The courthouse doors closed behind them, and the roar of the crowd faded into the distance. Jack walked steadily, his hand on the girl's shoulder, the necklace still glinting against her chest, a symbol now not of wealth, but of survival. His brother's shouts still echoed in his ears, promises of revenge, curses spat like venom. Yet Jack no longer felt the chains of fear he had carried for years. He felt something stronger, something alive. That night the mansion stood quiet, though scars of fire still marked its walls. The girl sat near the hearth, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes heavy with exhaustion but burning with a question. She finally whispered, "Is it over?" And Jack crouched in front of her, his eyes soft but unyielding. "Not yet, but soon, when the truth is fully revealed." She looked down at the necklace and whispered again, "My mother said it would lead me back to him. Maybe she meant you." Jack's breath caught the weight of her words, pressing deep. He whispered, "She was right, and now it has led me to the only fight worth finishing." The next weeks turned into a storm. Trials, scandals, corporations collapsing, as Jack poured every resource into exposing the rot his brother had built. One revelation after another tumbled out: hidden accounts, bribed officials, crimes buried under money and fear. The world gasped. The empire that had once seemed untouchable cracked under the weight of truth, and through it all the girl remained by his side, her small voice steady. When she was called to speak her testimony, carrying a rawness no lawyer could twist, she told them about the nights of hunger, the men who tried to take her, the promises her mother whispered before she vanished. Every word pierced the court like fire. Jack watched her, each time his heart swelling with pride and sorrow, because she was stronger than anyone realized, stronger than even he had been in his darkest hours. And with every truth spoken, his brother's face twisted further, until at last the verdict came: guilty on every count. The gavel slammed. His brother shouted promises of vengeance as guards dragged him away, but Jack felt the weight lift like smoke rising into the night. The chains were broken, the lies shattered. The girl clung to Jack, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Is it really over now?" And Jack pulled her close, his voice trembling. "Yes, it is over. He cannot hurt you anymore. He cannot hurt anyone anymore." She sobbed against him, but in those tears there was relief, there was healing, and Jack felt something he had thought was lost forever. Hope. Months passed, the mansion repaired, but Jack did not rebuild it into a fortress of power. Instead, he opened its doors to children like her children, forgotten, abandoned, betrayed. The halls, once cold with silence, now filled with laughter and footsteps. The girl no longer walked in rags. She walked with a strength born of survival, her eyes brighter, her smile rare but real, and always the necklace around her neck, a reminder of the woman who gave everything to protect her. One evening, Jack sat with her on the balcony overlooking the city lights. She leaned against him, her voice thoughtful. "Do you think she would be proud of me?" Jack's throat tightened as he whispered, "She would be proud beyond words. She would see her strength in you, her fire in you, her love in you." And the girl's eyes glistened as she whispered softly, "And she would be proud of you too." Jack closed his eyes for a moment, the ache of loss still there, but softened by the warmth beside him. He finally said, "Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are. I thought my life ended the night of that fire, but then you appeared, and I realized it was only the beginning." She took his hand, her voice small but fierce. "Then we begin again together." And Jack nodded. Together. Years later, the world remembered the scandal, but more than that, they remembered the transformation. The billionaire who once ruled with power now ruled with compassion. The girl once broken, now grown into a woman with her mother's fire leading the foundation. They built together, and the necklace never left her chest. It became a symbol not of wealth, but of truth, of love, of survival. Jack watched her as she stood before crowds, her voice strong, her presence unshaken, and his heart swelled because he had kept his promise. He had not left her, he had protected her, and in doing so, he had found himself again. The past would always linger in scars and memories, but it no longer defined him. It no longer defined Heron. His final night, he sat by the fire. The girl, now grown, sitting beside him, she whispered softly, "You kept your promise," and he smiled, weak but true, "and you kept her as you found me, and you carried her." Love. Jack closed his eyes, the necklace glinting in the firelight, and whispered the words that had lived in his soul for years. Sometimes the ashes of betrayal become the soil of hope, and as his breath faded, he knew he had given her not just protection but a future. She held his hand until it grew still, her tears falling, but her heart strong, because his story was complete. Her story was still unfolding, and the lesson remained clear. Love, once broken, can rise again. Betrayal, once hidden, can be exposed, and sometimes the family we find is stronger than the one we lose. The end.